Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The ground trembled as Dexter Hines' boots hit the landing pad of Mariphus Research Facility. Above him, the planet's twin moons cast an eerie purple glow across the barren landscape, highlighting the facility's titanium walls that stretched toward the alien sky. "Agent Haynes," a nervous voice called out. "I'm Dr. Reeves. We weren't expecting you for another cycle." Dex turned, his enhanced eyes adjusting instantly to the darkness. The scientist before him was sweating despite the cold, his lab coat wrinkled and stained with what looked like coffee, or perhaps something worse. "The bone crusher doesn't wait," Dex replied, his voice a controlled bass that made the scientist flinch. He'd earned that nickname crushing enhanced soldiers like paper cups, and he wore it like armor. The facility's entrance doors hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with enough firepower to level a small city. Dex noted the placement of each weapon, each guard, calculating kill zones and escape routes out of habit. His augmented muscles coiled beneath his tactical suit, ready for action even after the 30-hour journey from Earth Command. "The subject," Dr. Reeves stumbled over his words as they walked. "She's been particularly aggressive since the last incident. 3 of our best interrogators dead. I read the report." Dex cut him off. "Show me the footage." In the monitoring room, holographic screens flickered to life. The footage showed a massive chamber and within it, something that made even Dex's enhanced heart skip a beat. The alien queen, Zelania, stood at least 9 feet tall, her blue skin rippling with what appeared to be living armor. But it wasn't her size that caught his attention. It was her eyes. They burned with an intelligence that seemed to pierce through the recording itself. "Fascinating," Dex murmured, stepping closer to the screen. The footage showed an interrogator approaching her with a neural probe. In less than a second, the Queen's armor had formed razor-sharp spikes, impaling the man before he could even scream. "That's why we've implemented new safety protocols," Dr. Reeves said, wringing his hands. "The containment chamber is now equipped with 'Take me to her.'" Dex's command cut through the air like a blade. "But the briefing, the protocols." Dex turned, fixing the scientist with a stare that had made hardened criminals confess their sins. "Now." The walk to the containment chamber was silent except for Dr. Reeves's nervous breathing. Guards snapped to attention as Dex passed, their eyes wide with recognition. The Bone Crusher's reputation preceded him, the man who had single-handedly ended the Perseus uprising, who had survived things that would have killed a dozen normal men. The chamber doors opened with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a space larger than a shuttle bay. In the center, surrounded by energy fields and restraints that could hold back a small sun, stood Zelania. She was even more impressive in person. Her blue skin had a metallic sheen, and her armor shifted like liquid mercury. Despite her chains, she held herself with regal bearing, her features striking a perfect balance between alien and humanoid. "Agent Haynes," Dr. Reeves squeaked. "The protective suit is mandatory for—" Dex was already removing his tactical gear. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the containment fields. Guards raised their weapons and scientists gasped as he stripped down to his base layer. Zelania's eyes locked onto him, her armor rippling with deadly spikes. But Dex saw something else, a flicker of surprise, perhaps even curiosity. "Leave us," he commanded, not taking his eyes off the Queen. "But sir, the protocols. I said leave." His tone left no room for argument. The chamber emptied quickly, leaving Dex alone with the most dangerous prisoner in human space. He approached slowly, deliberately, studying her reactions. The armor covering her body shifted like waves on a dark ocean, forming and reforming patterns that seemed to respond to his proximity. "Come to die like the others?" Her voice was unexpectedly melodious, with an accent he couldn't place. "Your species has such an appetite for death." Dex stopped just outside the inner containment field. Is that what you think we are? Death seekers? She laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in a storm. You're worse. You're conquerors who pretend to be peacekeepers. At least death seekers are honest about their intentions. Says the woman who killed 3 men with a touch. Dex moved closer, his enhanced senses registering the subtle changes in her armor's pattern. It was becoming more aggressive, spikes forming and retracting in rhythmic waves. They tried to violate my mind. Her massive form straightened, chains clinking. Would you not defend yourself against such invasion? Dex's lip quirked. Fair point. He stepped right up to the containment field, close enough to feel its energy raising the hair on his arms. But I'm not here to invade your mind. No? Her eyes, iridescent and alien, narrowed. Then why are you here, Bone Crusher? The use of his nickname made him pause. You know who I am. I know what you are. She moved forward, chains stretching to their limit. A weapon, like me. The difference is, I was born this way. You chose to become a monster. Is that what you see when you look at me? Dex's hand hovered near the field controls. A monster. I see a man who has killed so many times that death clings to him like a second skin. Her armor rippled again, but this time the spikes seemed less pronounced. But unlike the others, you're not afraid. Fear is a luxury I can't afford. With deliberate slowness, Dex reached for the field controls. Stop! Dr. Reeves's voice crackled over the intercom. Agent Haynes, you cannot deactivate the containment field. It's against all protocols. Dex tapped the controls, and the energy field between them disappeared with a soft whine. Zelania's eyes widened, her armor shifting rapidly. Either very brave or very foolish. I've been called worse. Dex stepped forward, now completely within her reach. You could kill me right now. We both know those chains wouldn't stop you. The Queen's armor writhed, spikes forming and dissolving. Perhaps I will. But you won't. Dex moved closer still, close enough to see the subtle patterns in her blue skin. Because you're curious, just like I am. Her massive form towered over him, but Dex didn't flinch. He could hear the chaos erupting in the control room, could imagine the weapons being trained on them both. But his focus remained on Selania, watching as her armor began to change in a way he hadn't seen before. You're different, she said softly, her voice carrying a note of surprise. Your heartbeat, it's steady, even now. Genetic enhancement. Dex shrugged. Though I suspect you already knew that. The others. Zelania's armor continued its strange transformation, becoming less spike-like, more fluid. Their fear made my armor react. Their hatred made it weapon-sharp. But you... Dex did something then that made every guard in the facility collectively hold their breath. He reached out and touched her arm. The effect was immediate and stunning. Where his hand made contact, her armor seemed to melt away, revealing smooth blue skin underneath. The transformation spread like ripples in a pond, changing the texture of her entire arm. Fascinating, Dex murmured, watching as the armor continued to shift. You respond to emotional stimulus, don't you? Not just physical threats. Zelania's expression was a mixture of shock and something else, something that looked almost like relief. How did you know? I didn't. His hand remained on her arm, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath his palm. But I suspected. Your file mentioned that your armor was strongest when facing aggressive interrogators. It wasn't hard to make the connection. And yet you approached without fear or aggression. Her voice had lost its edge of hostility. Why? Dex met her gaze steadily. Because sometimes the best way to understand a so-called monster is to treat them like they're not one at all. The chamber fell silent as they studied each other. Despite the alarms blaring in the control room, despite the weapons trained on them both, time seemed to slow in that moment of first contact. Your handlers are quite distressed, Zelania observed, a hint of amusement in her voice. Her eyes flicked to the observation window where scientists and security personnel were frantically moving about. They'll survive. Dex maintained his touch, fascinated by how her armor continued to transform. Though I suspect I'll be filling out paperwork for weeks. A sound escaped her that might have been a laugh. The mighty bone crusher, defeated by bureaucracy? Bureaucrats are scarier than any alien queen. His lips twitched. No offense. Oh? And here I thought I was the most dangerous prisoner in the galaxy. Her armor rippled again, but this time it seemed almost playful, like waves catching moonlight. Dex moved his hand, watching as the armor reformed slowly behind his touch. About that, I've been wondering, if you're so dangerous, why stay? These chains couldn't hold you. Not really. Zelania's expression shifted, becoming more serious. Perhaps I'm waiting for something. Or someone? Before she could answer, the chamber doors burst open. A squad of heavily armed guards poured in, led by a red-faced security chief. "Agent Haynes," the chief barked. "Step away from the prisoner immediately." Dex didn't move. Instead, he kept his eyes on Zelania, watching as her armor began to respond to the new tension in the room. Spikes started forming again, but they were different now, defensive rather than aggressive. "Stand down," Dex commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority that had ended wars. "The situation is under control." Under control? Dr. Reeves had appeared behind the guards, his face pale. "You violated every safety protocol we have. She's killed. 3 interrogators, yes, you mentioned that." Dex finally turned to face them, positioning himself slightly between the guards and Zelania. Did anyone bother to ask why? The silence that followed was telling. "They tried to force their way into my mind," Zelania said quietly. "My armor responds to threats. It's instinctive." "And now?" Dex gestured to her transformed state. "What's this response to?" She looked down at her own body, seeming almost surprised by its current appearance. Where there had been sharp edges and weapon-like protrusions, now there were smooth curves and flowing lines. Her massive form still commanded attention, but it no longer screamed of danger. "This is unexpected," she admitted. "Lower your weapons," Dex ordered the guards. "You're only making things worse." "Agent Hines," the security chief started, "with all due respect." "That wasn't a suggestion." Dex's enhanced eyes gleamed in the chamber's harsh light. "Unless you want to explain to Earth Command why you interfered with a top-level investigation." The guards hesitated, then slowly lowered their weapons. The change in Selania's armor was immediate, the defensive spikes receding even further. "Interesting," Dex murmured. He turned back to Zelania. "Your armor doesn't just react to emotions, it amplifies them. The fear in this room was making you more fearsome. The aggression was making you more aggressive." "And what am I reflecting now, Bone Crusher?" Her voice had taken on a curious tone, almost teasing. Dex studied her transformed state, the flowing lines, the subtle iridescence of her blue skin, the way her massive form seemed less threatening and more magnificent. "Curiosity," he said finally, "maybe even a little trust." The security chief cleared his throat. "Agent Hines, we still need to follow protocol. The director will want a full report. Then let me give you something worth reporting." Dex's voice carried through the chamber. Without warning, he reached up and touched Zelania's face. The reaction rippled through her entire body. The remaining armor melted away like frost in sunlight, revealing smooth blue skin underneath. Her features, once partially obscured by defensive plating, emerged in striking detail: high cheekbones, full lips, and those extraordinary iridescent eyes. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Even the guards stepped back. "Impossible," Dr. Reeves whispered. "The armor, it's completely receded." Zelania's eyes were wide with surprise, fixed on Dex. "No one has touched me like this since before the invasion." "And?" Dex kept his hand on her cheek, his thumb tracing a line along her jawline. "How does it feel?" "Like remembering who I was," she whispered, "before they made me their weapon." The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither had expected. Then Telania did something that shocked everyone. She smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her seem less alien, more real. "Well, Bone Crusher," she said softly, "it seems you've succeeded where all others failed. You've seen beneath my armor." "Just the surface," Dex replied, finally lowering his hand. "I suspect there's much more to discover." "Is that a threat or a promise?" "That depends on you." He turned to address the stunned audience. "I'll need daily access to the prisoner. No restrictions, no interruptions. And get rid of these chains. They're clearly unnecessary." "But sir," the security chief started, "do I need to remind you who I am?" Dex's voice carried that edge again, the one that had earned him his nickname. "No, sir. We'll make the arrangements." As the chamber slowly emptied, Dex turned back to Zelania. Her armor remained withdrawn, but there was a new tension in her posture. "You're taking a risk," she said quietly. "Your superiors won't like this." "My superiors sent me here to understand you." He met her gaze steadily. "I intend to do exactly that. And if you don't like what you find beneath the surface—" Dex's lips curved in a slight smile. "That's the thing about being the Bone Crusher. I don't scare easily." As he turned to leave, Zelania called after him. "Tomorrow, then?" He paused at the door, looking back at her transformed state, powerful yet vulnerable, alien yet somehow familiar. "Tomorrow. We have much to discuss, Your Majesty." The chamber doors closed behind him, leaving Selania alone with her thoughts and her changed armor. For the first time since her capture, she felt something she'd almost forgotten: hope. The observation room's lights flickered as Dex reviewed the footage for the 100th time. On the screen, Zelania's armor shifted and flowed like liquid metal, responding to his touch in ways that defied conventional physics. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Dr. Reeves appeared behind him, his reflection ghostly in the darkened screen. "We've never seen her armor behave like this before." "Because you've been studying her wrong." Dex's voice carried an edge of irritation. "You treated her like a lab specimen instead of a sentient being. She's not human, Agent Haynes." "Neither am I, technically." Dex turned, his enhanced eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. 23% of my body is synthetic. Does that make me a specimen too?" Before Reeves could respond, alarms blared through the facility. Dex was moving before the first echo died, his augmented muscles carrying him to the containment chamber in seconds. Inside, he found Zelania surrounded by medical drones, her armor bristling with defensive spikes. A team of scientists huddled behind protective barriers, monitoring readings on their tablets. "Stand down," Dex commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Agent Haynes, we're in the middle of a crucial test," one scientist began. "I said stand down." He strode forward, ignoring the warnings of the security system. The drones retreated at his approach, their programming recognizing his authority. Zelania's armor began to smooth as he neared, the deadly spikes melting away. "Your timing is impeccable, Bone Crusher." "I aim to please." He deactivated the remaining security measures with a few quick commands. "Care to tell me what this crucial test was about?" Her massive form straightened, chains jingling. "They wish to see how my armor responds to various stimuli: electrical, chemical, neural." "Torture, you mean?" "Science," she corrected, though her tone suggested she shared his assessment. "Though I must admit, their methods lack finesse." Dex turned to the scientists. "Out, all of you. The prisoner is now under my exclusive jurisdiction." "But the director can take it up with Earth Command." His enhanced eyes flashed dangerously. "Would you like me to make that call?" The chamber emptied quickly, leaving them alone. Dex studied Selania's form, noting the subtle tremors in her armor, the way it seemed to pulse with residual pain. "Why do you endure this?" he asked quietly. "Would you believe me if I said I was waiting for someone like you?" Her smile held a hint of irony. "Someone who could see past the monster they made me into." Dex moved closer, watching as her armor continued to calm under his presence. "Tell me about your people. The real story, not the propaganda Earth Command feeds us." Zelania's massive form settled, her blue skin catching the harsh chamber lights. "We were builders, creators. Our armor wasn't meant for war. It was for protecting us while we shaped worlds." "Terraformers?" Something like that? She reached out with one hand as far as the chains would allow. Her armor rippled, forming intricate patterns that looked almost like circuit boards. "We could connect with planetary cores, redirect energy flows, create life where none existed. Until humans arrived." "Until humans arrived," she agreed, her voice hardening. "Your kind saw weapons where we saw tools, saw threats where we offered alliance." Dex watched as her armor shifted again, this time forming shapes that resembled flowering vines. "Show me." Without hesitation, he stepped within her reach. Zelania's eyes widened, but she slowly brought her hand to his temple. The moment they connected, images flooded his enhanced mind. He saw vast cities that grew from living metal, structures that breathed and moved with their inhabitants. He witnessed her people dancing with planetary energies, their armor glowing with creative power, and he felt their terror when human warships darkened their skies. "Enough!" he gasped, stepping back. His cybernetic implants struggled to process the alien memories. "Now you understand." Zelania's voice was soft, almost gentle. "What you call armor is our connection to life itself. We transform because all life transforms. We adapt because that's what life does." Dex's enhanced mind raced with implications. "But your defensive capabilities came after, when we learned we needed them." Her massive form seemed to shrink slightly, armor dulling with remembered pain. "I led my people in peace. I never wanted to learn how to kill." Before Dex could respond, the chamber door hissed open. Director Calder strode in, flanked by armed guards. "Agent Haynes," Calder's voice dripped with false courtesy, "I see you're making progress with the subject. More than your torture sessions ever did." Dex positioned himself subtly between Selania and the newcomers. "Torture? My dear boy, we're conducting vital research." Calder's smile didn't reach his eyes. "In fact, we've made a breakthrough. The subject's DNA contains sequences we can isolate and replicate. Imagine armor that responds to emotional states, that can be programmed for maximum lethality." Dex felt Zelania's armor shift behind him, responding to the threat. "You're talking about weapons development. I'm talking about evolution, progress." Calder stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Think about it, Haynes. Your enhancements were just the beginning. With her DNA, we could create soldiers who truly are invincible. By corrupting everything her people stood for. By surviving." Calder's facade cracked slightly. "You've seen the reports from the outer colonies. The threats we face. We need every advantage. Get out." Dex's voice could have frozen plasma. "Excuse me? I said get out, or I'll show you exactly why they call me the Bone Crusher." The tension in the chamber crackled like static electricity. Calder's guards shifted nervously, their weapons half raised as they watched Dex's enhanced muscles coil beneath his tactical suit. "You're making a mistake, Haynes." Calder's smile had vanished completely. "Earth Command won't look kindly on this emotional attachment to the subject." "Emotional?" Dex's laugh was cold enough to make even Selania's armor ripple. "I'm simply protecting Earth's interests. After all, how can we study her abilities if you destroy them with your crude experiments?" Behind him, he sensed Zelania watching the exchange with keen interest. Her massive form cast shadows that danced across the chamber walls as her armor shifted in response to the confrontation. Very well. Calder straightened his lab coat. We'll do this officially. Expect a full review of your authority here, Agent Haynes. As they left, Dex's enhanced hearing picked up Calder's whispered orders to his staff. Prepare the extraction team. If Hines won't cooperate, we'll proceed without him. The chamber doors sealed shut, leaving them alone again. Dex's cybernetic implants were already calculating scenarios, escape routes, contingencies. They fear you, Zelania observed, her voice carrying a note of admiration. The mighty bone crusher, defender of aliens. They should fear me. Dex turned to face her, his enhanced eyes glowing with intensity. I've toppled governments for less than what they're planning. And what exactly are they planning? Her armor had taken on a curious pattern, something between defensive spikes and flowing curves. Instead of answering, Dex moved to the control panel. His fingers flew over the interface, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. The chains holding Zelania suddenly released, clattering to the floor. What are you doing? She stretched her massive form, armor flowing freely for the first time since her capture. Testing a theory. He approached her, utterly fearless despite her now unrestrained state. Show me what happens when you're not fighting against restraints. Show me what your armor does when you're truly free. Zelania's eyes widened, then narrowed with understanding. Slowly, her armor began to transform. Gone were the defensive spikes and weapon-like protrusions. Instead, her blue skin seemed to glow from within, patterns of light dancing across her surface like aurora borealis. Beautiful, Dex breathed, watching the display. This is what you were meant to be, isn't it? Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. But they'll never see it this way. To them, I'll always be a weapon to be harvested. Dex's enhanced hearing picked up movement in the corridors, teams assembling, weapons being prepped. Calder wasn't waiting for official approval. They're coming, he said quietly, and this time, they're not planning to ask nicely. Zelania's armor rippled with understanding. What will you do, Bone Crusher? Your duty is to Earth Command. My duty, Dex moved to the security console, his fingers dancing across the controls, is to protect humanity. Sometimes that means protecting humanity from itself. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights bathed the chamber in crimson, casting eerie shadows across Zelania's transformed state. Warning, containment breach detected. Emergency protocols initiated. The AI's voice echoed through the complex. What have you done? Zelania watched as Dex systematically disabled security measures, creating a diversion. His enhanced eyes gleamed in the red light. They're about to learn why crossing the Bone Crusher is considered suicide in most systems. The chamber doors burst open. A fully armed extraction team poured in, led by Calder himself. They froze at the sight of Zelania unchained, her massive form towering beside Dex. Agent Haynes! Calder's voice cracked with rage. Step away from the subject and surrender yourself for questioning. Dex's response was pure action. His augmented body moved with impossible speed, crossing the space between them before the guards could raise their weapons. The first three went down in a blur of precision strikes, their enhanced armor crumpling under his legendary strength. Zelania watched in awe as the Bone Crusher lived up to his name. He moved like liquid death, each strike calculated for maximum effect. Guards flew across the chamber, weapons clattered uselessly to the floor, and Calder backed away in terror. Stop him! Calder screamed. Use the neural disruptors. One guard managed to fire his disruptor. The beam struck Dex square in the chest and did nothing. He smiled, a cold expression that had made hardened criminals weep. Funny thing about neural disruptors, he said, advancing on Calder. They don't work so well on someone who's already part machine. Then everything happened at once. More guards flooded the chamber. Zelania's armor responded instinctively, forming a protective barrier around them both. And Dex made his decision. He spun toward her, his enhanced eyes meeting her alien gaze. "Do you trust me?" "What? Do you trust me?" His voice carried an urgency she'd never heard before. In answer, her armor flowed outward, enveloping him in its protective embrace. The sensation was electric, his enhanced nervous system connecting with her alien biology in ways neither of them had expected. "Hold on," he commanded, and then he was moving, carrying them both through the chaos of the chamber. Guards fell before them like leaves in a storm, their weapons useless against the combined might of Earth's deadliest agent and an alien queen's living armor. They burst through the facility's outer walls, alarms screaming in their wake. Zelania's armor protected them from the toxic atmosphere of Meraphis, as Dex's augmented legs carried them across the barren landscape. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice resonating through their shared connection. "To prove that not all humans see you as a weapon." His determination flowed through their link. "To show them what your people were really meant to be." Behind them, the facility's defenses came to life, but they were already moving too fast, their combined abilities making them nearly unstoppable. As they raced toward freedom under Meraphus's purple moons, both knew there was no turning back. The Bone Crusher had made his choice, and for the first time since her capture, the alien queen felt something more powerful than hope. She felt purpose. The twin moons of Meraphus cast long shadows across the barren landscape as Dex and Zelania raced through the toxic atmosphere. Her armor encased them both in a protective cocoon, while his enhanced legs carried them at speeds that would have torn apart ordinary humans. "They're deploying hunter-killers," Dex announced, his augmented vision detecting the automated pursuit craft launching from the facility. "Any suggestions?" "There's a place," Zelania's voice resonated through their shared connection. "An ancient temple of my people, 2 kilometers east, built into the mountain." Dex altered their course without hesitation, his cybernetic systems calculating the most efficient route. Behind them, the hunter-killers screamed through the purple sky, their weapons charging. "They're not trying to capture us anymore," he noted, dodging the first volley of plasma fire. Calder's switched to elimination protocols. "Can't let his secret weapon escape?" There was a bitter humor in Selania's tone. Her armor shifted, forming aerodynamic patterns that increased their speed. The temple appeared before them, its ancient spires rising from the mountainside like the bones of some prehistoric beast. Crystalline structures caught the moonlight, sending rainbow refractions across the toxic landscape. "Beautiful," Dex breathed, even as his combat systems tracked multiple incoming threats. "It was our last sanctuary." Zelania guided them toward a hidden entrance. "Before your people came." They burst through an energy barrier that Dex's sensors hadn't even detected, emerging into a vast chamber that defied physics. The interior space seemed to stretch for kilometers, yet his enhanced mind told him that was impossible given the mountain's dimensions. "What is this place?" Zelania's armor retracted slightly, allowing them to separate while maintaining their protective bubble. Her massive blue form seemed to resonate with the chamber's crystal walls. "This is where we learn to transform," she explained, "where we first understood that life itself is nothing but endless adaptation." An explosion rocked the temple's entrance. Calder's forces had arrived. "We don't have much time," Dex said, his enhanced body already moving into combat stance. "Whatever you're planning, look at me, Bone Crusher." Zelania's voice commanded attention. Her armor was changing again, but differently than before. It flowed like liquid starlight, revealing patterns that made his cybernetic eyes strain to process. "What are you? You've seen beneath my armor. Now see what lies beneath that." Her massive form began to pulse with energy that his sensors couldn't categorize. My people weren't just builders or warriors. We were catalysts. The temple walls thrummed with ancient power as Zelania's armor continued its transformation. Crystalline structures around them began to resonate in harmony with her changing form. Catalysts for what? Dex asked, even as his enhanced senses registered multiple hostile forces converging on their position. Evolution. She reached out, her massive blue hand hovering near his face. We don't just adapt, we help others adapt. Through connection, through union. Another explosion rocked the temple. Dex's tactical systems highlighted structural weaknesses, calculated escape routes. But something in Selania's eyes held him in place. The experiments at the facility, he realized. They weren't just trying to weaponize your armor. They were trying to unlock this ability. But they could never succeed. Her armor rippled with what might have been amusement. This gift cannot be taken. It must be given, chosen, shared. The temple entrance burst inward. Calder led a full tactical team, all wearing experimental battle suits that Dex's systems didn't recognize. Isn't this touching? Calder's voice dripped with contempt. The mighty bone crusher, corrupted by alien influence. Take them both down. The battle suits charged up, crackling with energy designed to penetrate Zelanian armor. Dex moved with liquid grace, his enhanced body flowing through combat forms that had made him legendary. You still don't understand, he said, disabling two soldiers before they could even raise their weapons. You're so focused on weapons that you can't see what's really in front of you. I understand perfectly. Calder activated something on his wrist computer. Your enhancements have been compromised, initiating override protocols. Dex's cybernetic system suddenly screamed with interference. He stumbled, his perfect control wavering. You didn't think we'd let our best weapon run free without a failsafe, did you? Calder smiled. Now, stand down and— Enough! Zelania's voice shook the temple foundations. Her armor exploded outward, not in weapons or spikes, but in waves of pure transformative energy. Show them, Dex. Show them what we can become. Through the haze of override protocols, Dex looked at Zelania. Her armor had become pure light, her massive blue form radiating power that made his cybernetic implants sing with recognition. Without hesitation, he reached for her. No! Calder screamed, but it was too late. The moment their hands connected, everything changed. Zelania's transformative energy merged with Dex's enhanced systems, creating something entirely new. His cybernetics didn't just resist the override, they evolved beyond it. Impossible, Calder whispered, watching as Dex's form began to change. Living metal flowed across Dex's skin, not covering him like armor but becoming part of him. His enhanced muscles rippled with new power as Zelanian biotechnology merged seamlessly with his cybernetic improvements. This is what you could never understand, Calder. Dex's voice resonated with new harmonics. True power doesn't come from domination. It comes from synthesis. The battle-suited soldiers opened fire, their weapons designed to penetrate Zelanian armor. But this was something new. The energy blasts were absorbed, transformed, redirected. Beautiful, isn't it? Zelania moved to stand beside him, their energies intermingling. This is what my people tried to offer yours. Not submission, but transcendence. Dex flexed his transformed body, feeling power beyond anything his enhancements had ever given him. Shall we show them what that really means? Together, they moved like a force of nature. Dex's legendary combat skills, enhanced by Zelanian biotechnology, made him virtually unstoppable. Where before he was merely extraordinary, now he was transcendent. Calder's forces fell back in terror as the Bone Crusher lived up to his name in ways they'd never imagined. Battle suits crumpled like paper, weapons shattered, and soldiers fled before the display of power. Stop! Calder drew his personal sidearm, a prototype designed specifically for this scenario. I won't let you ruin everything we've worked for. The weapon discharged, releasing enough energy to level the temple. But Dex and Zelania moved as one, their combined abilities transforming the deadly blast into pure creative force. The temple's crystals absorbed it, channeling it through ancient pathways, awakening systems that had lain dormant for centuries. The temple began to pulse with renewed life, its crystalline structures glowing with restored power. Calder stared in horror as the very ground beneath his feet started to transform. What, what are you doing? He stammered, watching as living crystal began to grow around him, showing you what you missed in all your research. Dex moved forward, his transformed body radiating power that made Calder's remaining forces retreat. Zelania's people weren't weapons to be harvested. They were guides to the next step of evolution. This is what we tried to tell your leaders, Zelania added, her massive blue form now perfectly synchronized with Dex's movements, before they chose war over understanding. The temple's transformation accelerated. Where there had been decay, new growth emerged. The toxic atmosphere outside was being purified, transformed by the same principles that had allowed Dex and Zelania to merge. You're insane, Calder backed away. Earth Command will never allow this. They'll quarantine the entire planet. They'll listen. Dex's voice carried absolute authority. Because I'm going to tell them, and you know what my word means to command. It was true. The Bone Crusher's reputation wasn't just about combat prowess. It was about judgment. He'd ended wars, prevented disasters, saved entire colonies. His assessment carried more weight than a dozen scientific committees. Think about it, Calder, Dex continued, extending a hand transformed by Selenian technology. What looks better for Earth? Another weapon to add to our arsenal, or the key to transforming dead worlds into living ones? The crystals around them hummed with possibility. Through their connection, Zelania shared visions of what could be barren planets restored, toxic atmospheres cleansed, new forms of life emerging from the synthesis of different species. Your choice, Dex said to Calder. Stay and witness something revolutionary, or run back to command with tales of monsters and traitors. Calder looked around at his defeated forces, at the temple transforming around them, at the impossible union of human and alien technology displayed before him. Then he turned and fled, his remaining soldiers following. They'll be back, Zelania observed, her massive blue form shifting closer to Dex's transformed state. Let them come. Dex reached out, their energies mingling once again. By then, we'll have something to show them that even Earth Command can't ignore. The temple continued its transformation, becoming a beacon of life on the dead world. Through their shared connection, both could feel the changes spreading outward, healing the toxic landscape one molecule at a time. You know, Dex said, his enhanced systems now working in perfect harmony with Zelanian biotechnology. For a dangerous alien prisoner, you're not bad company. Zelania's laugh echoed through the crystalline chamber, and for a legendary human weapon, you're surprisingly enlightened. Together they watched as their combined power reshaped the world around them. The Bone Crusher's deadly efficiency merged with Zelanian creative force, producing something entirely new, a power not to destroy, but to transform. Earth Command will want to study this, Dex mused. They'll want to understand how we merged our abilities. Let them study, Zelania's armor rippled with amusement. Some things can't be learned through observation alone. Some truths require personal experience. Dex smiled, feeling the power flowing between them. Are you suggesting we should offer more hands-on demonstrations? Why not? The mighty Bone Crusher and the Alien Queen showing the galaxy a new way forward. Her massive form had taken on a more streamlined appearance, adapting to their shared state. It could be quite an adventure. Epilogue. 6 months later, Earth Command's central chamber had never seen anything like it. The massive viewing screen showed transformed landscapes across 3 different planets, barren worlds brought back to life through the combined power of human technology and Zelanian bioengineering. Dex stood before the council, his transformed body a perfect fusion of cybernetic enhancement and alien biology. Even here, in the heart of human power, he commanded attention not through force but through sheer presence. The legendary Bone Crusher had become something more, a symbol of evolution itself. The results speak for themselves, he concluded, his enhanced voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. 17 dead colonies restored, 3 toxic atmospheres purified, and that's just the beginning. Behind him, Zelania towered in her now customary form, still massive and blue-skinned, but with an elegance that turned heads instead of inspiring fear. Her armor flowed like liquid starlight, responding to the positive energy in the room. "And you can replicate these results?" Admiral Calder asked. A different Calder, one who'd replaced her disgraced brother after his failed attempt to weaponize Zelanian technology. "With the right candidates, yes." Dex's transformed eyes gleamed. "We've already identified several promising pairs for the synthesis program." The council members exchanged glances. 6 months ago, the idea of humans voluntarily merging with alien biology would have been unthinkable. But the Bone Crusher's success was undeniable. Worlds that had been written off as dead were now blooming with life. "Very well," the council president announced. "Project Genesis is officially sanctioned. You'll have whatever resources you need." As they left the chamber, Dex felt Zelania's amusement through their bond. "Genesis?" she asked. "Humans do love their dramatic names," says the queen who literally glows when she's happy. He flexed his transformed arm, watching the living metal ripple. "Besides, it fits. We are creating something new." "We certainly are." Her massive form moved with fluid grace as they walked through halls that had once been forbidden to her. "Though I must admit, I prefer your original title." "Oh?" Bone Crusher has such authority to it. Her armor shimmered playfully. "Even if you mostly crush prejudices these days instead of actual bones, I can still crush bones when necessary." His smile held that dangerous edge that had made him legendary. "I just have more interesting options now." They emerged onto the landing pad where their personal transport waited, a hybrid vessel like themselves, combining the best of both worlds. Above them, Earth's sky stretched endlessly blue, a reminder of how many more worlds waited to be transformed. "Ready for our next mission?" Dex asked, though he already knew the answer through their connection. "Always." Zelania's form shifted, preparing for spaceflight. "Lead the way, Bone Crusher." As they lifted off, their merged energy trailing like a comet's tail, observers couldn't help but stare in awe. The most dangerous man in the galaxy and the alien queen who was supposed to be his prisoner had become something else entirely. Pioneers of a new age, proof that evolution's greatest leaps came not through conflict, but through union. The Bone Crusher had done it again, not by destroying but by building something entirely new. And this time, the entire galaxy would follow his lead. The end.